All right, this will be quick. Just did a nice little short, only did about 12 miles, but a nice spirited little ride on the local roads. There's some little twisties I like to hit. On the, it's 2021 or 2022, probably leftover 21, but the same bike. It's the S model, it's the 950 Supersport. Looks like a Panigale, it's not. It's actually more closely related to the Monster than the Panigale. So imagine taking a Monster frame and then putting on Ducati Panigale bodywork and giving it the Panigale electronics package and clip-ons instead of a bar like that. My impressions of it, I wish it was a tiny bit bigger for me. I can ride it just fine. Even though the suspension, which is really nice, tasty Öhlins, I think it's a TTX or something in the back, and I don't know what the front is, but they're nice. Brembo M50 monoblocks, steel braided lines, Brembo master cylinder. I mean, it's the S model, so it's got all the trick stuff. Nice one single-sided swing arm. Comes with Pirelli Rosso 3s, which are a great tire. Riding this thing, it really is. It's a Panigale for the street. I know all the reviews say that, so there's no revelation there. But it's very comfortable. The suspension, I was chucking this thing around and diving into turns. Now, I've never really ridden this bike. I literally rode it around the subdivision once before it was broken in. So this is the first time I actually went out and got on it a little bit. And I mean, you can just hustle and just dive into a turn, and was immediately, I felt very at home. Because in some ways, the seating position, when you look at the bars, how they're kind of up high, well, my bars over here are not quite as high, but they're not much lower. That's with the Healy bars. Now, my legs are more cramped. This has more leg room, but it's immediately a very familiar ergonomic package. It's got lots of grunt. Horsepower-wise, peak, it's within a horsepower of this, but it's got more torque, and there's just a little bit more urgency to the acceleration. This one, until I get the ECU flashed, is muted. This same motor in the MT-09 is a freaking riot. It's a wheelie monster, and this will wheelie, but this one, they did play with those ETV settings to tone it down because it's a touring bike, right? Although you could ride it like a sport bike, but when you hit the throttle, the power's there. It's kind of like, all right, fine, I'll give it to you. As opposed to this one, which is like a little chihuahua, like, let's go, let's go, let's go. It doesn't have the brutality of that. It's down 80 horsepower at the wheel, but it has more of a sport bike urgency, but it doesn't really make any more power than that, if that makes sense. It's just how it's delivered. It's a big V-twin, a fairly big V-twin, 950, whatever, about 947 cc's. It's two fairly big pistons flying around in there at up to 10,500 RPMs. So, it's got some torque. It does like to rev. Red line's about the same as that. It is not as comfortable as that. I will say the seat's better, but if you're going to do some mileage, for someone my size, this is a more comfortable package. But I'll tell you, man, that is a wicked little sport bike. If I was up riding on Richard Russell or up Blood Mountain or something like that, granted, I would want to get the suspension set up for me. I didn't fiddle with it. We're going to take it up to GMD CompuTrack so they can set up for my wife. But even on just the soft out-of-the-box settings, I mean, it handled great. It's brilliant. I think that if I set that up for me, which would probably raise the ride height in the back a little bit, I don't think I would be any faster going down a twisty road than I am on that. And you could say, well, it's just because I'm the limiting factor. Maybe, but you don't have a lot of places where you can really throw 180 horsepower, whatever that, 182 to the ground, and really rip on it other than straightaways. Up in the twisties, you're just carrying corner speed, coming off the turn, slow down a little bit, accelerate back out. You're never really putting all that power down until the straightaway comes. And it better be a long straightaway, and your brakes better be ready because you're going to need it to scrub off all that extra speed. For any sane road on the, riding up aggressively in the mountains, this thing's freaking brilliant. It really is a cool bike. The electronics, the dash is nice. Could use better wind protection, but it's typical sport bike type of a screen. They have a touring screen I think Donna's going to get that'll be a little taller and hook up a little bit at the end, keep some of the wind off you. But and she's going to get luggage for it. But just to ride this thing, it's like riding a sport bike. It may only make 100 horsepower at the wheel, whatever. It's got lots of torque and mid-range. Even down at like 3,500 RPMs, when you hit the gas, it just goes. You feel the big, you feel that lumpiness of the twin. It's a great experience. Same weight rider. I don't think it's any faster than this at all. Top end speed, there should be both in the low 140s, which for that kind of bike is, more than adequate. Acceleration wise, they're almost dead even. This one just feels a little more grown up. And this one feels a little bit more rambunctious without being overkill like that. So that's my quick. I know we were a little over 5 minutes. Supposed to be a quick 5-minute overview, but my impressions of this thing, it's great. The brakes are strong. It handles great. The tires out of the box are good. The suspension needs to be set up for me, but it was just amazing how I just got on the bike. And normally, like on this bike, because it's tall and the ergonomics are different, you got to ride it a little bit and figure out, okay, well, how much effort do I tip it in? How much braking? Just all that kind of stuff you got to figure out. Here, I just felt like I was going home. I got onto something, and before I got to the end of the driveway, I was like, yeah, I got it. I know what to do with this thing. It just does what you want. It goes where you want. It feels great on the side of the tire. I can't fault it for anything other than, it's a little small for me for a touring bike. Now, as a sport bike, I go up and ride that in the mountains, and I'd be fine on it. It's not going to be any worse than this. In fact, it'll be better than that ergonomically. But if I'm going to go ride across, country or something, I'm going to want that, but with a better seat. So anyway, big thumbs up. Nothing I could fault it on. The power is good. The stock cams, muffler sounds good. Suspension is absolutely sublime, even in its soft settings where I was like, oh, it's going to be wallowy. It wasn't. And I know that if I dialed in that Öhlins for me with a good shop like GMD, that thing would be an animal. I would absolutely rock that out on the track. So anyway, there you go, folks. Leave comments.